We've got another question from the leaderboard, I think,
We do. The second most liked question this week was from Maddie Howard, who says, since approximately 85,000 women are raped on average in England and Wales every year, when will we blame the perpetrators and help end sexual violence? That's from Maddie.
OK, so when will we blame the perpetrators? When will we stop victim blaming? Lisa?
Well, I think quite simply when we've got a culture change and when we face up to the fact that we have problems with attitudes across society, but most importantly, in positions of responsibility. So this year we've seen, for example, a 13-year-old girl who'd been groomed and then raped by a number of men in court being accused by a prosecution lawyer of being a predator. We've seen women repeatedly blamed for their allegedly sexual behaviour in situations like that. Girls in Rochdale, for example, blamed by the people who were supposed to protect them for making a lifestyle choice. And we see it over and over and over again. And actually, I think we need to do a couple of things. The first is that I think we need to accept that we've got a problem and we need to put much more money into supporting people to come forward, to make their voices heard and to get that support when they do. You know, what we've seen in the last few years is we've seen charities who help rape survivors being cut back. We've seen the schemes in courts that are supposed to help witnesses and protect them from that sort of aggressive questioning, stalling. But I think we also really need to take a long, hard look at the sort of leadership that we're showing in this country. You know, when you've got footballers like Ched Evans, who doesn't accept that he's committed a crime, walking back into a job where he is a highly paid role model in his community, and you don't have leadership from public figures, including politicians, saying this is absolutely wrong and something needs to change, that's when you create a vacuum, and these are the sort of attitudes that are allowed to flourish, and that's the end result.
And
Nelufar?
I completely agree with everything you're saying there. And to add to that, you've got people like Dapper Laughs making it funny. It's funny to laugh at a woman getting raped. It's hilarious to think about either stabbing her or her having sex with you. And it's sometimes, as a British Muslim, I stand in the kind of, a lot of people who will understand that, I stand at a crossroads and I think, you look at Muslim women in a hijab and you say oppressed, don't have a voice, can't do what you want, under a man's thumb, and then you kind of sometimes look at Western world and say, oh no, that woman has everything, she works, she does this, she does that. Well, actually, it's not as clear-cut as that. And in Britain, where we are today, in fact, a national survey found that a lot of police forces in our country are under-reporting some of the most serious crimes, including rape and sexual violence. It's easy to go over and say the other, that stigmatised, that other, you know, the hijabi, whatever, is the one who's oppressed. We're free. We've got it sorted. We haven't. And the first bit of solving this is actually having a police force, of having a government, of having policies that support the victim rather than perpetrators. That's the first.
And I would say that one of the most important things around that is about what we do in schools. So we don't have sexual and relationships education in most schools at the moment. It's not compulsory on the curriculum.
It's got to
and there's
be.
a real problem actually, because what we know is that a significant minority of boys at school don't understand concepts like consent. So we keep saying to girls, you need to protect yourself and you need to keep yourself safe. But actually we're not looking at boys too, and we're not sitting with them with
Just very quickly, it's all well and good to know what a fallopian tube is when you're in year 6 or year 9 or whatever, and most people here have done sex education, understand that. But consent, geez, the very basics of it, we don't understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah. James, so is this a cultural problem in this country?
I don't think that there is a so-called rape culture. I think it's a very emotive phrase. I think most men. I think most men know that no means no. I don't think that we've become more of a rapey society. But I think one of the points you made, you referred, I think, to the grooming gangs in Rochdale and in Rotherham, and it's not just in the north. It's in Telford, in Norfolk. It's happened. We've got these organised gangs, mostly of Muslim origin. I think we need to. It's a fact.
It is also a fact that a mature...
Can you let me finish? Thank you very much. You outrageous interruption.
OK, let him finish and then come back in.
I'm not spreading lies.
I'm just telling you what the member of that audience are actually... They are screaming at you.
Why don't you
that
read
girl
the
is screaming at
newspapers?
you.
If you look at the names
that
have come up in the court cases, you will find that most of them are of Kashmiri, Pakistani origin.
Nelufar. No, that's Nelufar now, please.
You talk about rape culture. It's a very pretty state of affairs when the police and the social workers would not deal with this problem because they were too embarrassed about being called racist.
You're turning a question about sexual violence into one about religion. First point. Second point.
Talking about massive...
Can I just finish? Second point. You and I know, James, that a majority of rapes and sexual violence perpetrated in this country is done by white Caucasian people. We know this. I want to finish.
You did.
Do you know what? A lot of the time, as someone who works in the news, I get a bad rap, right, for kind of skewing opinions and going, oh, well, Muslims done it. And, you know, fair play to that. Sometimes that does happen in the media. But what's worse is when someone...
When somebody speaks the truth,
why
you
don't
don't call
Do
them
you
a liar.
agree or disagree that the majority...
I totally agree with you.
So what are you saying?
Because the majority of the population is white, so inevitably, statistically, you're going to get that problem.
OK, we'll move away from you two now, I think. Yes, gentleman here.
Does it really matter if they're black, white, orange, yellow? It's like, at the end of the day, rape is rape and the subject will...
The point, gentleman at the back here.
I think James's attitude is symptomatic of the whole Islamophobia discussion. Because bringing religion into emotional matters unnecessarily does not help anyone. It only antagonises things. And I think that as far as the rape culture goes, there is a problem. It's, you know, it was in 1991 that marital rape was finally made illegal. That's not that long ago. I was 7 years old at that time. I think part of the problem is that too many people now just see rape as something which... the woman who's asking for it. You know, women, as you were saying before, cannot win. They either are wearing Islamic dress and they're called oppressed, or they're slut-shamed. There is no happy medium, and the media are to blame for this division, whether it be on religion or gender.
Rehman.
Can I just go back to what that gentleman said over there? When I prosecuted cases and I dealt with cases, what I found is that you had people who committed rape were from all different backgrounds, because we have evil people in society for all different backgrounds. That is it. There are people from all different backgrounds who commit evil acts. And in terms of rape, a horrific act, and therefore those who commit it have to be brought to account and made to pay the price through the legal system. The problem that we have in the legal system is this, if we're being very clear with one another here, is this. In relation to a stranger rape and a situation where you know someone, they're both horrific, they're both unacceptable. But if you put a case of a stranger rape before a jury, you'll have a situation where they'll look at DNA, they'll have evidence, they'll have CCTV, all the others. But when you look at people where they know each other and say 90 to 80% are issues of consent, and therefore in a trial is one person's word against the other. And therefore it's an issue where the jury then has to decide on one person's word against the other. Is it that one is less culpable than the other? Absolutely not. But in terms of evidence and how those cases are dealt with, there is that difference. And therefore what I would say, if we accept the legal system that we have with a jury, then what we have to do is to ensure, what the government is doing, is to ensure that the victim in this case gets all the support they can get from the beginning to the end. What I mean by that is, for example, a victim, when they give evidence, rather than coming to court and giving the evidence straight up in examination in chief, the ordeal, play that by recorded evidence.
But that's not available in most
it is.
courts.
Hang on, Lisa, if you let me finish.
It's not.
Lisa, if you let me finish. Lisa, if you let me finish.
Lisa,
if you let me finish. You know, you say this, but the reality is, under this government, we've just put the pilot projects out. It wasn't, she's right, it wasn't under a Labour government. We have, because what we have to do is to ensure that the court process is made fair for individuals from the beginning to the end, so that justice can take place.
Yeah, OK. Tina.
Yeah, lots of people are reacting to James's comments before. That generalisation is abhorrent. Ched Evans isn't Muslim. This from Bridget. There's no such thing as rape culture, says the man. Shocking. Maddie, who asked the question in the first place, says violence against women is an epidemic fuelled by the undercurrent of misogyny. And this one from Dr. CDF. We need to take a good, long, hard look at how sexist our society still is. The truth is, there'll be no freedom without...
OK. OK. Yeah, lady here, please.
There's a lot of cases that go undiscovered because women feel too scared to come forward because they feel that they may be judged because how they dress, how they look and how they behave. Maybe they may have drunk too much, or maybe they may not have been in the right frame of mind, but that should never, ever, ever be an excuse.
Okay, yeah, lady at the back here.
I know it's probably an unpopular view, but I completely agree that it is, in some areas, largely rape is committed by Muslims. Because, no, I grew up in Bradford, all right? And in that kind of environment, it is mainly Asian men, not because it's something about their culture, but because they're not getting caught. Like, I've had friends who've been raped, and the police have told them that because it's an Asian man that's done it, probably not going to catch them. But it happens all the time.
What has Asian to do with not catching them?
I don't know. Because they're not engaged with police, and the police are too scared of being called racist to do anything. Like, there's just such a divide between
So the police are
British
scared of being called racist, is your point? Do you lend any credence to that idea,
I
maybe?
don't know what planet these police are living on. Are they actually saying to people, yeah, you know, I'm just going to put the phone down now because it's an Asian person, so
That's
don't
what they did.
report it.
That's what they did.
I don't think that they do that. You know, I think there needs to be an adult debate about these issues. Just going back to the original question and to some of the feedback as well, you know, there is a wider debate, and I mean this really seriously. I think in Britain, as a culture, we are scared of female sexuality. We really are. And so there's a massive debate to have around that. We need a culture shift, because this whole idea that if a woman is a bit tipsy or if she's wearing a short skirt, then, you know, maybe, you know, the song Blurred Lines, there are no blurred lines, actually. Like, no means no. And, you know, rape is completely unacceptable in any context. And I think that's what we should really be talking about. And women, you know, should not be afraid in any way to express their sexuality.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important.
I think we can all agree that rape is totally unacceptable.